In 1966, the Chicago Bears drafted the son of a Pennsylvania coal miner in the 4th round. Doug Buffone would go on to play 15 seasons for the Bears and later be named one of the 100 greatest Bears of all time. His allegiance to the Bears never waned, even when he took to the microphone and witnessed some horrendous Bears teams.
The fact is, there's not the fear put into them, because this game is a lot about fear. You either do the job, or you go home and go sell hamburgers at McDonald's.
Doug told it like it is, and that's part of the reason his nephew John has dedicated this show to Doug. And now John Buffone is spreading Buffone-branded beratements just like his uncle.
Win the football game. You're the head coach. I don't care what you have your fingers in. I don't care what you're meddling in. You're the head freaking coach. We get it. You're the most important guy on the staff. You don't have to keep trying to legitimize that.
And he's got pep talks too.
I love this team. And I know everyone watching and listening loves this team. So while we may be pessimistic and cynical, every one of us still has hope that the stars will align at some point. And if that ever does happen, you'll be glad you stuck around.
John is telling it like it is here on Buffone 55. And joining John are Alyssa Barbieri, managing editor of USA Today's NFL Wires, including Bears Wire, and also Danny Shimon, lead game and draft analyst for the Barroom Network. Buckle up and bear down. This is Buffone 55, the John Buffone Show.
Hello and welcome to the season finale of Buffone 55. One last fast-paced approach to breaking down the 2023-2024 Chicago Bears. I'm John Buffone, and Alyssa has the night off from this show because, of course, all of the breaking news happens on Wednesday, so she is just rattling off stories on BearsWire.com right now. She's working real hard, so she has a night off. And guess who we're bringing on to fill in for her? That old battle axe we call Aldo Gandia. Aldo, the Podfather. How you doing, buddy?
What a crazy day. Last week, we said, hey, let's do, a look back at the season. And you came up with a fantastic idea, but I didn't realize how much work it was going to be. So I'm editing all day. And all of a sudden, I learned that there's a press conference. And I'm like, holy cow. And then Alyssa can't make it because she's working at Bears Wire. Oh, holy cow. So I'm a little flustered, but that doesn't matter because you're the star of the show, and Danny, when he comes in, are going to do a great job.
Well, see, Aldo, I'm really good at coming up with ideas on what other people should be doing. So, like, oh, you know what video you should do, Aldo? You know what work you should do, Aldo? I'm really good at that. And then throw on the fact that the Bears waited until just today to drop all of the to drop all those news that Eberflus is staying, Getsy's gone, the press conference, Kevin Warren's out there. There is so much to go over. I mean, it's good that we have a show on Wednesday because we can have immediate reaction to it, but we had to basically rewrite everything. So we're kind of flying by the seat of our pants today. So bear with us, no pun intended, but it's gonna be a great show. But just in case this might be your first time ever listening or watching Buffone 55. Thank you for tuning in, by the way. Aldo, give us a refresher on how this show works and how it's going to work today.
Yeah, today is a little bit different, of course, because Alyssa is not here and because all of the breaking news. We've gone through this before, by the way. You'll see that a little later in the video that we've got for you. But Buffone 55 is divided into 3 segments, but today it'll be basically 2. It'll be the B55 segment where John shares his thoughts about the Chicago Bears. I come up with 5 great questions for John. And then after that, we'll take a quick commercial break. And then when we come back, it'll be Buffone's Basement. And Danny and John will talk about all the latest developments over at Hallis Hall. Then we'll play our 18-minute video that looks back at the Chicago Bears 2023 season as seen through the eyes of all the folks at Buffone 55. And then I will join the guys and we'll finish things up by talking about 2023 and then look forward to 2024. There you go, John. What do you think?
18. I haven't seen this video yet, so I'm just as excited as everybody else to see, because it'll be a nice reflection on how dumb I was throughout the season. But it'll also, I'm excited to see this, and I can't believe you put that much work into it. I'm flabbergasted, but I'm excited. So I better bring the energy, because you spent a lot of time on this show today. So I gotta bring it.
You always do. So what are you talking about? So let's start with our B55 segment. Again, this is where I am asking John 5 questions, and he's got to answer them within 55 seconds. Now, the 55, of course, is because his uncle, Doug Buffone, played linebacker for the Chicago Bears, wore number 55, played 15 seasons. John, are you all set? Ready to go?
No, I'm as ready as I'm going to be. One last time for the 2023-2024 season. I'm ready to go.
All right, let's make it a good one. John, you got yourself really, really hyped up for the Week 18 matchup against the Packers. I think it's safe to say you got a lot of viewers amped up as well. Unfortunately, it didn't look like the Bears were very amped up going into that game and throughout the game, and they ended up with a loss to Green Bay of 17-9. John, how disappointing was that loss to you? Can you put it into words, and can you put it in 55 seconds?
Listen, honestly, it was gut-wrenching. The table was set for this to be a great way to cap off a not-so-great year. The Bears had a little momentum going into this game. It's against the Packers. They had an opportunity to knock Green Bay out of the playoffs, and they could not have looked more uninspired. They scored 9 total points. Green Bay didn't punt once during the game. The play calling on both sides of the ball appeared cowardly, and whatever juice you had going into Week 18 was completely lost after that game. No one on the Bears sideline, player or coach, really looked like they wanted to be there against Green Bay, even though it's your biggest rival and you could have knocked them out of the playoffs. Much like they did in Week 1, the Bears made Jordan Love look like a Hall of Fame quarterback. It wasn't a slugfest. It wasn't ultra competitive. It was just another game where Green Bay looked like a superior team, and that is devastating to Bears fans. That's 10 straight losses, which doesn't even seem like it can be real, but it is. What an awful.
You are not kidding at all. That, we started off with a loss to the Green Bay Packers that was so heartbreaking for me personally, because I was really looking forward to the Bears taking that next step. And then for these disappointing losses to bookend the season, it's just been devastating, and we're all dedicated to our work here at the Barroom Network and with this show and our other Bears show. But I really could use a week off from this disappointment, because every time I think about it, I just get blue. And I know everybody else in the chat room does too. So I really appreciate you coming today. You probably would not have shown up had you not heard that Getsy was out the door.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. Like, we got ourselves excited for Week 1 because we thought it was going to turn the chapter of the rivalry. This was we were turning the page where it was Justin Fields and Jordan Love, and Justin Fields, was supposed to be the superior quarterback going into this year. And then we get ourselves hyped up for Week 18 because, we can knock Green Bay out of the playoffs, and the Bears are showing some, momentum. They're showing improvement. And then they just fall flat on both sides of the ball. We're talking about cowardly, play calling, the soft zone. Why don't you give Jordan Love a pillow back there? He could not have been more comfortable.
Yeah, he was lobbing balls up to throwing off his back foot. It was like he was toying with us during a certain portion of that game. Very disappointing, but let us move on to question number 2. So we all know now that the Bears will retain Matt Eberflus, even though most of the offensive staff was let go today. John, is keeping Flus, in your mind, the right decision as the Bears get ready for year 3 of this rebuild? 55 seconds are on the clock. Go.
Look, I'm all for continuity, and I understand the process of wanting to stabilize a franchise, but I don't think it's wild to say that I have some serious reservations. The defense did play better, yes, but it took the defensive coordinator abruptly resigning for Matt Eberflus to take the reins. And his offensive coordinator has just as many questions, and he was fired alongside all the other offensive coaches. So I have concerns about his ability to hire a staff. And when he does hire a defensive coordinator, will that guy be calling plays? Will the defense regress to what they were before Eberflus took over? As far as the offensive coordinator goes, what kind of a talent pool will they be choosing from with Eberflus potentially being a lame duck coach next year. And as a head coach, we saw him clam up in big situations where he had double-digit leads late in games, and the Bears just handed the game over to their opponents. He's 2-10 against the NFC North, and they only beat one team with a winning record this year. I think he's a good coordinator, a good football mind. I don't know if I can see him hoisting Lombardi.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's funny. Can't buy 1127 says, I guess we just forgot the countless bad decisions, game management blunders, and playing not to lose. And, you know, the lack of inspiration. I mean, it is funny, though, that the players seem to be behind Eberflus. Mm-hmm. But, boy, when he talks to us fans in press conferences, I know Danny has talked about this before, it is not at all inspiring in the least.
No, and listen, I don't think that you don't have to be Dan Campbell necessarily, but because Lovie Smith wasn't that kind of a guy, but he also commanded the respect of the room while he was talking. And there was a difference there between that calm confidence, has control of everything, and then Eberflus, who kind of just okay, I got to look at my notes, make sure I say the right thing. I don't know. Did I say the right? Am I going to do the right thing? Did I say the right thing? And I understand he's still. I'm done making this excuse after this year. A second-year head coach trying to, getting into the swing of things. I'm once again, I'm done with that excuse after today. But you should know how to command respect to the room when you're talking.
Yeah. Well, Joe is talking about quarterback Justin Fields, and that's a perfect segue to our next question. And it's the most polarizing topic amongst Bears fans. You know that for the next couple of months at least, Justin Fields is going to be talked about, and Caleb and blah, blah, blah. In his final press conference with the Chicago Bears for the 2023 season, he essentially said goodbye to the Bears fans, just in case that was his last game in a Bears uniform. This conversation, as is again going to happen over the next upcoming weeks, how do you see this Justin Fields situation finally coming out?
So I'm glad you asked this question the way that you did, because everyone on Twitter knows what the Bears should do. And if you don't agree with them, you're an idiot and you don't know football. But look, the Bears aren't coming to me anytime soon or anyone else on social media anytime soon for roster tips. So I'm just going to talk about what they could do given the circumstances. With Flus coming back, I think that's a slightly good sign in the Justin Fields staying category. But with Getsy gone, I think that could be a strike against the Justin Fields staying camp. I'm sure Ryan Poles and Kevin Warren are aware of the Bears' past mistakes and do not want to repeat them. We saw the Bears draft Trubisky with a lame duck John Fox. We saw them draft Fields with a lame duck Matt Nagy. If they're going to start over with a new quarterback, they need to make sure everyone is on the same timeline, and at the very least, bring in a seasoned, accomplished offensive coordinator that doesn't necessarily have head coaching aspirations in the near future, but he can develop a quarterback and he won't jump ship. So really, I don't know, because when you keep Eberflus, you're keeping that consistency, and you think they might keep the quarterback, but it's going to be a whole new offensive system next year anyway. So I honestly do not know.
Yeah. You know, what's interesting is in the chat room, it's a perfect microcosm of what's going to happen over the next few months regarding these big decisions with Fields and so forth. I personally think that your approach to this is a healthy one for all of us fans. Should probably, not all of us, but many of us should probably, just sit back and let the decision makers make the decision, and let's spend some time with the family and stuff like that.
Listen, Aldo, none of us are going to control it. I can type in all caps on Twitter for the next 10 days. It's not going to make a difference on what Ryan Poles does. So I'm gonna just have to sit back and watch and see how it develops. And there's people that are convinced he's staying. There's people that are completely convinced that he's gone. So I don't know, and I'm not going to pretend like I know, but I am going to be very interested, because this could go, honestly, how long could this stretch out? Up to past the combine?
Yeah, absolutely.
And because they don't have to trade the pick until a day before the draft. If they want to trade down, they can wait. They can let people sweat it out. Or if they're going to trade Fields, when do they have to pick up his 50-year option? Is it May?
It's immediately after the draft. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's in May. So they could trade Fields in April, or they could trade him in March. So we really don't know. And once again, we don't even know who the offensive coordinator is going to be. That could have a big impact on this as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, from a strategic standpoint, I haven't really given much thought as to what's the best timetable. If you're going to do this, then when should you do it? But because you want to try to maximize the most you can, whether it's a trade for Justin Fields or whether it's added draft assets by trading that number 1 overall pick. So that's something I'll be giving some thought to because I just can't help myself.
Sure.
John, I got to worry about this stuff.
No, I have to think that the new offensive coordinator is going to have some input on this because
I would hope so.
Because they're not hiring a new head coach, but the head coach really isn't an offensive guy. So when you bring in this new offensive coordinator, he's probably going to say, and I don't know if Brian Poles and Matt Eberflus is going to say, hey, we're hiring you. You have to keep Justin Fields, or hey, we're hiring you. We're taking Caleb Williams number 1 overall. I don't know if they're going to do that. They're probably going to have these conversations and say, what's your best approach to this? And because then you limit who you can actually hire. You're already limiting who you can hire because you don't know if it's going to be a lame duck coach. And then you're going to even shrink that pool more by saying you have to use this quarterback. And then now your candidates have shrunk even more. So I have to imagine that they're going to have to get the input from whoever they hire, and like I said before, and I'm sure we'll have this conversation later on in the show, a guy that is going to stick around for a little while and can develop a quarterback. I think that's who it's got to be.
Exactly. Don't make the same mistake you made with Luke Getsy, which is trying to make a athletic quarterback Aaron Rodgers. It's not a good idea. It's not forward thinking.
We talk about timelines a lot, but there was no established person that they brought in with the first-time GM, first-time head coach, first-time offensive coordinator, first-time play caller. There wasn't an established person to be, like the old guard in that room, really. Everyone was there for the first time, and so they weren't really sure how to handle it, and Getsy was in over his head.
Yeah, that's about as simple as anyone can make it. All right, question number 4. So let's take some inventory from this past season. Although it was a frustrating year, there were, of course, some bright spots. And John, by the way, my video is going to really focus in on the negative spots. But anyways, right. John, in 55 seconds, can you please give me your Bears offensive most valuable player and your defensive MVP? You got 55 seconds. Clock is started.
Well, let's start with the offensive side of the ball. And for me, it's DJ Moore. This guy comes in here, racks up 96 catches for 1,364 yards and 8 touchdowns. And just for comparison, the number 1 receiver for the Bears last year was Cole Kmet, who caught 50 balls for 544 yards and 7 touchdowns. DJ Moore doubled that production in receptions and yards. He added a dimension to the Bears offense that it hadn't had in a while and showed that he could take over a game. Against the Commanders, he had 10 catches for 230 yards and like 3 touchdowns. So for me, got to be DJ Moore. On defense, you have some good candidates. TJ Edwards with 155 total tackles. Montez Sweat completely changed the attitude of the defense once they traded for him, racking up 6 sacks in 9 games. But for me, it's Jalen Johnson. He emerged as one of the top corners in the league this year, racked up 4 interceptions, 1 for a touchdown, probably could have had a couple more. He made his presence felt throughout the year, and he set a good example for Kyler Gordon and Tyreek Stevenson.
I love your responses to that. And let's maybe when Danny comes in, maybe the 3 of us can, Danny and myself can share our MVPs as well. So we'll table this discussion and move on to question number 5. Okay?
Sure. That sounds great.
All righty. This episode, by the way, John, if you didn't know, concludes 7 years of Buffone 55 and the Barroom Network. Wow. There hasn't been too much success from the Bears. You're not a bad luck, John, right?
We had one good year.
That's right. We do always seem to have a lot of fun on Wednesday night. So forget the clock here. John, let us know what these 7 years of Buffone 55 have meant to you.
Oh, wow. It's pretty wild that we have been doing this show for 7 years. We started when John Fox was the head coach and Mike Glennon was the big-time free agent signing. We've gone from recording a 45-minute audio-only show on Skype to broadcasting a live video show on multiple platforms. We've seen new segments, new members of the team, new guests. But one thing that has remained the same throughout these 7 years is the barflies in the chat room and on social media. When we first started, I thought it was amazing that people actually listened to a show that I hosted. And to this day, I still find it amazing. So I just want to say thank you to everyone who has ever listened to this show, whether you've been here all 7 years or just one episode. We put a lot of work into this show because we believe our viewers deserve a high quality, well-produced Bears podcast. So here's the 7 years and a bright future for the Bears, the Bar Room, and the Barflies. That'll do it for the B55 segment. After this message, we'll talk more Bears with the Bar Room's lead analyst, Danny Shimon.
Have you ever wondered what it's like to be a quarterback in the NFL? I have. The quarterback position is arguably the most difficult position in all of sports due to its physical and mental nature. Join me by watching me on this channel on my journey to become an NFL quarterback.
The best Chicago Bears content anywhere. Catch Nomad live pregame 1 hour prior to kickoff and Nomad at night postgame. And every Friday evening at 7 p.m. Central on all the most popular streaming platforms. And only on the Nomad Network.
Welcome back to Buffone 55. This is the Buffone's Basement segment when we bring on Danny Shimon, the Bar Room's lead analyst. Danny, we got a lot of stuff to go over. How you feeling after week 18?
Something happened today? Was there some news made today out of Halisson?
I don't know. I stayed off of social media. I don't know.
That's a good point right there.
That would be healthy, but you
Yes.
know, we just can't do that. So, Danny, we got so much to go over. So I just want to jump right into it, because Aldo put together an 18-minute movie on the Bears 2023 season, seen through the eyes of this show. But before we get to that, we obviously got to talk about what transpired today at Halas Hall. So regarding Matt Eberflus, here's what Ryan Pohl said about his head coach today.
Coach Flus, his leadership through hard times. We had some adversity early in the season, in the middle of the season. His ability to stand strong and keep the team together was incredible. His ability to adapt and adjust as we went along. He had sudden change in terms of his role, and I thought we benefited from that. I thought we got better from that point, and I'm really happy for him.
Now, Danny, looking at it through the lens of the players responding positively to Eberflus and his handling of adverse situations, which, by the way, who created that adversity?
Exactly.
Anyway, does that help you make better sense of Matt Eberflus returning to it for his third year?
No, not really, John. I mean, as everyone knows, as you guys all know, I've been on the fire Matt Eberflus, bandwagon for most of the season here, and again, my head told me they weren't going to do it. They're not going to do it. but my heart said, maybe, just maybe the Bears are gonna make a change, and they're actually gonna play in the big boy pond and actually be a big boy team and make a play for a Jim Harbaugh or a Mike Vrabel, an established head coach. Because Kevin Warren last week was talking about, hey, it's not just about 2024. That when you sit down after the season, they're gonna look at the next 5 years. And there's no way you could feel comfortable with Matt Eberflus being your head coach and leading you for the next 5 seasons. So and then both Ryan Poles and Kevin Warren today put Matt Eberflus on the clock, basically saying that they expect to compete next season, expect more wins, and they expect to either, if not compete for the division, at least compete for a playoff spot. So you've already told basically the whole world that Matt Eberflus is on a make or break 1-year trial here next year. And now he has to go out and hire basically a whole new offensive staff. So it just doesn't make sense. Again, the Bears just don't do things the proper way. They don't line things up, in the way they should be. If you're going to make this change where you're going to get rid of the whole offensive staff, and then you're going to, he's a defensive coordinator. There's a couple other coaches left last year for some reason. He's lost 10 coaches over the last 2 seasons, right? So he's got to replace 10 of his original hires. So, now he's got to go out there and everyone he's going to bring in, like you said in your Buffone 55 rant, John, who is he going to attract there? It's basically going to be guys that are out of the league looking for a job. He's going to be picking from the scrap heap in terms of, offensive play callers and coaches, because everyone knows if they don't win next year, they're all out. So I just don't see the logic in terms of bringing them back. Even if they did improve, the defense got better. The defense was still not great. They blew 3 games with double-digit leads in the fourth quarter. That Green Bay game, that defense, they gave up 17 points, should have been 20. But the Packers did not punt, not even once in that game. They couldn't get off the football field. So what's so great about him? You couldn't get another defensive coordinator here to come in and run a 4-3 scheme and be able to take that talent that you have amassed there on defense, add some more to it, and be a good defense next year. I just do not see why you bring this guy back.
Yeah, it felt like if the Bears were ever going to take a home run swing, that this could have been the time to do it, to go after a Jim Harbaugh, to bring in a Mike Vrabel, to bring in a name that was going, go big. Because as far as coaches go, I don't know if they ever do swing big. They tried to be the smartest guys in the room when they got Trestman, and then they tried to stabilize themselves with John Fox, and then they try to go, the genius route with Matt Nagy. It's like they never go out and get that one guy that's just like that's a home run hire right there, and it just it hasn't happened yet. So
nope.
Like you said, it's almost hamstringing like who you could bring in for the offensive coordinator. We can talk when we talk about this when Aldo comes back onto the show. We can talk about some potential names for offensive coordinator who could potentially step into that role, and we can see what they could potentially do with this offense. But I do want to kind of switch to the benefits of, they did get rid of Luke Getsy, which was one step in the right direction. I'm sure most Bears fans would agree with that. But what are the benefits to the Bears, obviously, of getting rid of Getsy? And then what did he do wrong to get on your bad side, and probably the bad side of about 10 million other Bears fans?
It just with Getsy, again, you touch on it again in your Buffone 55 rant, John. It's a first-time GM hiring a first-time head coach, hiring a first-time play caller. And Luke Getsy, coming into Chicago, had never called offensive plays before. I know Matt LaFleur gave him, I believe, a preseason game to call plays, and that was it. That was basically his experience. He had some games at Mississippi State where he coached there and may have called some plays there as well. But again, he was not a guy that was proficient in terms of calling plays at the NFL level. And you bring it and you give him Justin Fields and you give him basically nothing that first season, comes in and tries to implement his system. He's not a guy that's innovative, right? He doesn't create a system. He hasn't created a system. He comes in and he's got, I know this system right here. I'm going to take player A, player B, player C, and plug him into the system. And then typically what would happen with Getsy this year is, we got a little bit more talent with DJ Moore. Cole Kmet stepped up. Justin made some improvements. And you saw those first 15 or 20 plays, when he scripted them, the Bears would come on, and usually they had successful first drives, right? But then once he was out of that 15 or 20 play bag, it was crapshoot. It was like playing Madden. It was like flipping through the script and, let's go with this play. We practiced this play Friday in goal line. This looks like it might work here. Let's put a tight end under center and go for 1 yard or toss it out to the outside for a 1 yard gain when you don't need to do all that. So it got cute, got weird. And he was just a guy, I believe that he was just overmatched. He came in as a heralded receivers coach with the Packers. So I think that's probably more of his lane. But again, he just didn't seem to be able to kind of forecast in terms of what the defense was doing, make in-game adjustments. Again, once he's got out of his first 15 to 20 scripted plays, it was a wild west for him. And whatever play he picked, he became predictable. A lot of defenders were saying, that the Bears, became predictable in terms of their play calls, multiple, screen passes, jet sweeps a couple times, and then, players just knew what was coming. And then the Bears offense was not, taking shots down the field. We heard multiple players saying that they were playing, kind of scared. And I think it was more, they kind of put a general, like a theme out there in terms of we were just playing scared, but I think they were just kind of putting the finger at Getsy saying he was coaching scared. And I think you saw some of that conservative thing kind of hurt him at, in a couple of games where they just shut down. The defense offense got bogged down, couldn't move the football, and the Bears ended up losing some of those games. So I think bringing in someone else, Getsy had to go. I mean, whether Eberflus stays or goes, that we can debate that. And like I said, I'm on that get rid of everybody train, but Getsy had to go. And I think now it's the only thing is what can Matt Eberflus bring in here, knowing everyone knows that he's on a 1 year, prove it or you're gone too, contract.
So, Danny, you're saying you don't like Cole Kmet under center on 3rd and 1?
Not when you have a 6'3", 230-pound quarterback that can just push it up and get a first down, or you have a 230-pound running back and get you easy first downs. No, I don't.
What was incredible was that it didn't work the first time, and so they tried it a couple more times throughout the year.
And they tried it with Robert Tonyan, who's a much smaller body than Cole Kmet, and it didn't work either.
Well, whenever you got your kick returner trying to block Rashawn Gary in the last game, in the last games, anyone can block anyone in this system apparently. And then you throw the same bubble screen 9 times. It's a
personnel packages. A great point there, John. The personnel packages that he would insert in the game at critical points in the game. You'd see I believe, I don't know if it was the Atlanta game or if it was the Green Bay game where there was one point where DJ Moore and Cole Kmet were out of the lineup, and he had Trent Taylor, Robert Tonyan, and I believe St. Brown in there on a critical 3rd down. It's like, dude, like bring your playmakers in here to try and make plays. And I went back and I kind of looked at half of that game. I couldn't do the full game, that Packers game, all 22. And really, there was no room for the Bears for Justin Fields to get rid of the football. The offensive line was overmatched, and he wasn't able to overcompensate for that and find ways to get his best players in position to make plays.
Absolutely. And so you mentioned Justin Fields, so I want to talk about him. But Danny, here's what Ryan Poles said about Justin Fields and his future with the team.
I did think Justin got better. I think he can lead this team. But at the same time, there's a unique situation where I have to look and our staff has to look at everything. And that's exactly what we're going to do. And that's the same with free agency. We're going to, look at our free agents, get with my personnel staff, do evaluations, and again, make the best decision we can for this organization to take the next step. But I'm really proud of where we are and where we're going. Came up a little bit short of our goals this year, but I have no doubt in where this team is going.
So, Danny, with that being said, and despite the issues with Getsy, who I'm guessing is probably going to end up with, Aaron Rodgers in New York next year, just because he likes to bring his buddies in with his team. But what did you see of Justin Fields that gives you pause, and what gives you hope moving forward?
Well, everyone knows here. I'm a huge Justin Fields fan. I'm a backer of the kid. I mean, the whole part is just the electric plays, the ability to break tackles, and you make plays with his legs. What got better on this year, or actually, especially after he came back from that injury, was I think his pocket presence got better. Right, I think his ability to kind of step up in the pocket, climb the ladder, still look downfield, not tuck it and run, not using his first instinct and just get out there and run. He was looking for receivers downfield. We saw him escape pressure, but continue looking downfield and making plays. Obviously, the interception numbers went down second half of the season as well. And in sacks, this past game against Green Bay was pretty bad. He took 5 sacks, but that wasn't all on him. I think that was just the offensive line getting overwhelmed. But overall, once he got back, I think the sack numbers, got better. So I think his pocket presence got better. Now, what gives me pause in terms of his next level, something that I talked about beginning of this year, is his play speed, the play clock in his head. That's got to speed up, right? That's got to be, again, pre-snap, you got to take a look and see what the defense is doing, how they're lined up, right? Post-snap, see how they adjust. Is that safety coming down? Is that safety staying up? And now have a quick reaction play to be able to get yourself out of that, get a positive, play. Don't sit there holding the ball, tapping the ball in the pocket. So his play speed, his play clock's got to get quicker. I would like to see him kind of speed up his release point as well, get a little bit faster, and again, faster getting rid of the football. So those are some things I think you can coach him up and get better. But again, he's only 24 years old. He hasn't hit his ceiling. And I think we talked about his off-the-field intangibles. He's got that it factor. The teammates will run through a wall for him. Obviously, management, sees how everyone rallies to him. The fans were chanting, we want Fields. So this kid is beloved, and not only by the fans, but also by his teammates inside the locker room, defensive players, offensive players. There are some things he needs to work on, but I think if you get in a coach here that can coach up quarterbacks, that can get things better, and not like a Luke Getsy, I think Fields, again, 24 years old, hasn't hit his ceiling. He's still room to grow and still can become that leader that the Bears are looking for on offense.
With a lot of the coaches, the offensive coaches being let go today, Joe brings up an interesting question here in the chat room. It says, O-line really has struggled for the last 2 years. Danny, are you surprised they kept Simo, which would be Chris Morgan, the offensive line coach? He's one of the ones that they are retaining. Why do you think that they chose to bring him back?
I think as overall unit, Joe, I think that the talent of the unit wasn't great last year, right? I think this year they got off to a slow start because the offense really was out of whack. Beginning those first 4 games, we did a couple film breakdowns here where you saw offensive linemen not sure who to block. You saw two Bears blockers blocking each other at one point. That was pretty embarrassing. I wonder if that's in the 18-minute Aldo reel we have here later on today. So, but I mean, I think the offensive line just didn't have talent. They were confused early on. But I think we see some development here, right? We saw Braxton Jones, right? I think Poles singled him out as well. He sees that he claimed that Braxton Jones is a starting left tackle in the NFL, and I tend to agree with him. Can he get better? Can he get stronger? Sure. He also mentioned that Braxton Jones has been working with Olin Kreutz, so that's a good thing there as well to kind of help him anchor and be better against his bull rushers, and that's where Braxton Jones gets beat a lot. So I think you have Braxton Jones there. You saw him get better. We talked about Tevin Jenkins. As long as he can stay healthy, Tevin Jenkins was probably one of the better offensive linemen for the Bears this all season. He had a rough game against Green Bay, but again, he's the guy that if he can stay healthy, he's getting better, right? Nate Davis, the free agent guy, came in, a little bit of a rocky season for him, and then Darnell Wright, a rookie, started every game this year as a rookie. Obviously, he's a guy that's still raw in terms of his technique. Poles touch on it as well, but he's a guy who started 17 games, had some rough patches there, but also, I thought competed well for a right tackle. So you got some young guys that are developing under Simo, and I think they wanted to continue that continuity there with that staff. And then now, hopefully, they'll infuse some more players here, whether it's a veteran center or draft a couple more guys. They got to fortify the inside, the interior of the offensive line. I think now you have a unit that can go on a week in and week out and compete and give you a quarterback a chance.
All right, Danny, it is time. The moment we've been waiting for all week, the unveiling of this Buffone 55 movie, apparently. I don't know if Aldo is going to enter it in any kind of independent film festival because it's about as long enough to be in one. But we are going to take a look back at the Bears 2023 season through the eyes of us on Buffone 55.
Get
and afterward, strap in, everybody. It's going to be a fun ride. Afterwards, we'll bring in Aldo and discuss 2023 and look ahead to 2024. Alyssa, week 1 is here. Can you believe it? We get real, honest to goodness, regular season football. I have the Bears at 9-8. Danny has them at 9-8, and Alyssa at 8-9.
I think you're going to see a big step this season. I expect them to be in the hunt and contend for the playoffs, but I don't necessarily expect them to make it this season.
For me, it goes back to the offense and defensive lines. This revamped offensive line does what we think it should do, and for me, it's just give Justin Fields enough time, but dominate in terms of as a run blocking unit, and then defensively, you got to improve that run defense.
There's a real route there to anywhere between 8 and 10 wins. There's a real route there.
Here's Lowe going end zone, caught, Dobbs, touchdown, Green Bay. Love to Aaron Jones. He walks in for the touchdown. Love looking to throw a fade far side. It is caught for the touchdown. Field stands in, delivered, intercepted. Quay Walker's got it. Looking for blocks. Walker still on his feet. Walker's still going, looking for the end zone. Quay Walker is in. Touchdown. The Packers come in and dominate the Bears yet again.
New season, same result. Look, I know you aren't supposed to make up your mind on a team in week 1, but that was absolutely pathetic. It looked like nothing changed at all. They couldn't run the ball. They couldn't pass the ball. The defense was getting picked apart. They made Jordan Love look like a Hall of Famer. The play calling was suspect, and even special teams looked flimsy. We were supposed to see improvement. We didn't expect a Super Bowl roster, but something was supposed to look better because you only get so many chances to prove that something is going to be different against your biggest rival who's been kicking your ass for 30 years. And now the national narrative is the Packers remain stable and the Bears remain a mess.
3rd and long. Mayfield off his back foot. Wants Mike Evans. Got Mike Evans. Touchdown Tampa. Fields well protected. Heaves end zone. It's Claypool. He threaded it through. Touchdown Chicago. Out of his own end zone. Intercepted by Shaq Barrett. Fighting at the goal line for a pick 6 that just might seal the deal for Tampa.
We were going to talk about that 12-game losing streak, but as they say in the news business, Aldo, something else kind of buried the lead. A couple things buried the lead today in Hallis Hall.
Alan Williams has resigned as defensive coordinator of the Chicago Bears.
It was a bizarre day at Hallis Hall. Justin Fields' comments were a lightning rod across the country.
Felt like I was kind of robotic.
Braxton Jones got put on IR. And for those that just can't get enough Bears news, Nate Peterman was released today, which of course led people talking about Tyson Bagent.
In terms of Alan Williams, honestly, guys, just strictly as a defensive coordinator, strictly in terms of what he does on Sundays, I've been a critic of him since last year. On the field, I think that they only have a chance to get better, to be honest with you.
11th play of the drive. Mahomes lofting end zone. There it is. A touchdown to Kelsey.
Alyssa, it's pretty amazing that a team's season can actually be over in week 4. But that's how it feels after the Bears got embarrassed by the Chiefs and fall to 0-3. How are you doing?
I feel nothing. I feel empty. I feel hollow. If not for Taylor Swift, how do I get through that game?
Holy crap, are they bad?
And I'm going to say something here, guys, that you guys probably won't believe. You might laugh at me. People in the chat are probably going to go crazy when I say this, but I saw some positives from Justin in terms of what he does or his pocket presence and him actually maneuvering in the pocket.
Play of the drive, 1st down and 10. Fields was looking deep. He's going to take a shot. Downfield, he's got a man more. Was he in? No signal yet. Touchdown! 2nd and 7. Fields wide open is Komet. Touchdown Bears. Play fake. Fields rolling right. He's going to turn it up, or is he going to throw it? He does. Touchdown! Number 2 for Cole Komet. Santos' career long is 55 yards. Pressure coming. Fields over the middle. Intercepted. Picked off by Jackson, and he goes to the ground. And the Broncos will escape with their first win of the year. And Matt Eberflus is going to have to answer a lot of tough questions after this game.
Time is a flat circle. It's nothing but pain. Somehow the NFL scriptwriters have screwed the Bears this year. I don't know how the Bears managed to top last week's blowout, but like the fact that, they had us for 3 quarters. We were hopeful for 3 quarters, and then they ripped it away.
This game took us to another depth of hopelessness that I didn't even know existed. What this told us was, your quarterback can have a career day statistically, throw for more yards than he ever has, set the franchise record for consecutive completions, throw 4 touchdowns. DJ Moore can have his best game of the year. Your running back can rush for over 100 yards, and you're still going to find a way to lose. And the quarterback played a significant role in that. There's no denying the impact of Fields fumbling and getting it taken back for a touchdown and the late interception. But outside the quarterback, they're unable to convert on 4th and 1. The defense is still soft. The coaching decisions, very suspect. This team has to play an absolute perfect game to win. The margin of error is almost nothing, and that game just reinforced it.
4-man rush again. Fields to the end zone. Moore. Touchdown. Fields to the end zone, reaching up. Does he make the catch again? DJ Moore, touchdown. Pass is hauled in by Moore, gets free. Washington gambles and lose the gamble that time. 56 yards, touchdown.
I am so glad that they got a win while you were there. Got a win for me on my birthday. Got a win in honor of Dick Butkus. This is weird. I'm like smiling like way too much for one of our shows.
Weird. And I know, I get it. They're 1-4, but still, it's a win. We haven't had it for a long time.
What excited me, John, was something we've been talking about, you and I and Alyssa, and also with Coach G on the postgame show, is that right side, the combination of Nate Davis and Darnell Wright, people movers. They might struggle here and there with some pass pro, but these are guys as run blockers can move guys off the line of scrimmage. And we saw some big chunks of runs there as Khalil Herbert got behind those two big boys and got yards and got into the secondary of the Commanders. So I think that was exciting.
But a trade that ultimately didn't work out was the one the Bears made for Chase Claypool last year.
Oh, it's one of the biggest trade blunders in recent Bears history.
So after sending a second-round pick to Pittsburgh last November, the disgruntled receiver was sent off to Miami for a late-round pick swap a day after the Bears win against the Commanders.
He's got time, and now the pressure gets to him. He tried to flip it last second, but I think they're going to say he's down. And Tyson Bagent, the rookie, coming on. Coming up on the 2-minute warning. Bagent lets it fly, but it's a duck, and it's intercepted. Byron Murphy picked it off.
It was just the same song and dance. This team, this coaching staff, this franchise is just consistently inconsistent.
Run left. From the 2, Foreman up the middle, backing his way in. That's a touchdown. Bagent the give to Foreman. Foreman plowing into the end zone for a Chicago touchdown. Bagent with time, throws it short. Foreman with the catch. Foreman to the end zone for the touchdown. And the first career touchdown pass for Tyson Bagent. Hoyer's long pass of the day is 15 yards, and it's intercepted, picked off by Jalen Johnson. Johnson, untouched for the touchdown.
The biggest storyline to come out of this game was rookie quarterback Tyson Bagent winning his first NFL start. The undrafted free agent went 21 of 29 for 162 yards with a touchdown, and most importantly, no turnovers.
I like the fact that he spread the ball around, and he got the ball to multiple receivers. I believe it was 6 or 7 receivers touched the football. So I think that's something that we have not seen with Justin. The one thing that clearly stands out, something that I called out, going into last week, was his quick release. And you saw the quick game was there.
The defense got stops, the running game moved the change, and Bagent made some nice throws. Seemingly, he went through his progressions pretty well, and he had a very efficient game for an undrafted rookie whose last start was in Division II.
Empty backfield for Herbert. He looks, throws, complete. Parham breaks a tackle. To the goal line, he's in. Touchdown, Chargers. Meet at midfield.
We were due for another shot of reality here in the bar room, and boy, did we get it with that ugly friggin' loss to the Chargers on Sunday night. Throw in some trade deadline drama, and another coach is gone, and well, who has time to talk about the Saints?
It's really sad, too, because I don't like feeling like this as a fan. I'm like, oh my God, we're not even halfway through yet. I'm like, it sucks that, I'm like, oh man, I'm looking forward to the end of the season. Because I don't want to be like that.
As for the Sweat deal, of course you have a little heartburn over what happened last year with the Chase Claypool trade. As of right now, I think the Bears traded away the 35th overall pick for Montez Sweat.
Good player, good football player, a guy that plays the run as well as he plays as a pass rusher. I've been harping on the Bears defensive ends not being sound versus the run, not setting a hard edge. Well, that's going to change with Montez Sweat. This guy is 6'6", 275 plus pounds. Chiseled frame. He plays the run. He's stout at the point of attack, and he's a guy that can get after the quarterback.
You got a lot of heft in the backfield with Taysom Hill and Jamal Williams. Wow, Saunders ran around. Hill finds a wide open Johnson for a touchdown. Bagent steps up over the middle, intercepted again, and it's a Debo again. His second of the day, and the third pick by Tyson Bagent.
Give it to Foreman. And he's in. Deontay Foreman takes it in for the touchdown for Eddie Pinheiro. Pinheiro's kick is no good.
But they've got enough pieces on defense to be a threat in a lot of the games they play.
3rd and 7, and that's going to cement it. Goff climbs it. Goff launches. Got a man. End zone touchdown. Launches deep. got Scott out there, and it's incomplete. It's Montgomery, and the former Bear has given the Lions the lead.
Back in the game. Gordon went back to the sideline. Brisker's over there too. End zone. Hawkinson, touchdown. Fields steps through. Will try to get it with his legs. Ball's out. Another Fields turnover. Metellus knocked this one out, and the Vikings have it.
We get a 3-point attempt.
Here is a dangerous throw, and that was just a 26-yard punt. Fields finds more, spinning catch. Fields lets it go. DJ Moore has it down inside the 15. Play clock at 4. Good snap, good hold, good kick. Bears are back on top with 10 seconds to go.
The Bears currently sit at 4-8, and Matt Eberflus got his first ever win against an NFC North team. Do you think that this win changed the trajectory of Eberflus's future with the Bears? 55 seconds are on the clock.
Not really. I'm staying steadfast that I know what I would do, but I don't think Ryan Poles knows what he's going to do yet. That was a good win for the team, but they did only manage, 12 points after creating 4 takeaways. And
John, Alyssa, I try to be a good analyst, try to break it down, look at the numbers, look at the way the teams have been playing. I just can't bring back Matt Eberflus. I'm sorry. I mean, yeah, has defense improved? Yes. I mean, to be honest, it couldn't get worse than last year, right? So it's gotten better. But again, we talked about earlier. You guys were talking about earlier about the Bears being in the hunt in that group. They're 4-8. They should be 6-6 if Matt Eberflus's team does not blow 2 late double-digit fourth quarter leads versus Denver at home and versus the Lions. The last time they played the Lions, they're up by 12 points with, I believe, less than 4 minutes left.
DJ Moore has only run the ball 1 time this year. He's going to fake it to Fields and run it for a second time this year, and he's into the end zone. And he got the jump. It's a free play. Fields for Moore. Got him! Touchdown! Bears lead! Look at the relief on that man's face. First time winning back-to-back games as Bears head coach.
Once again, they were up 12 points late in the game, and like most of the year, we're waiting for the big mistake. We're waiting for the other shoe to drop, and it never happened. The offense moved the ball and scored touchdowns, and the defense was flying all over the place. It was just nice to watch a football game in which my favorite team did things right and beat a team that they were not supposed to beat.
It was one of those wins where it kind of feels like not only is it perhaps saving Matt Eberflus's job, but it feels like they're on the verge of something that they could build on for next year, kind of like the Lions from last year.
Fields looking, backside pressure. Fields spins away. Going the other direction now. Fields on the run, throws for the end zone. Komet with the catch, the toe tap, and the touchdown. First down over the middle, and it's intercepted. Off the deflection, it's Tremaine Edmonds. Edmonds on the move. Flacco trying to make the stop. He can't do it, and Edmonds is in with a pick 6. Here's Flacco looking downfield. Open, and Cooper makes the catch and breaks free. Cooper tiptoes all the way for the touchdown. Santos would love a chance. 55 yards, his career long. Looking, sets up, throwing deep. Hail Mary, end zone, deflected, tipped, and intercepted. Almost caught. Darnell Mooney, achingly close to a game winner, and instead the Browns survive 20-17.
Last week I was entertaining the idea of him coming back as head coach next year, right? Because obviously dependent on Justin Fields as he continues to improve, I was here to run it all back, right? And now I'm iffy. I'm more like, let's just clean house now. I've seen enough. It's like just when I'm starting to trust him, he goes back to the same old man.
Maybe he's just a decoy and it's a run.
Taylor in motion, Fields under pressure again. He's going to run, wide open path for 6. And Herbert the carry, trying to get to the edge. He does. Does he have speed to get to the end zone? He does. It's a Bears touchdown.
3rd down and goal.
Fields flings back corner, more! Touchdown Bears! Trent Taylor in motion. There is Fields in his legs. Dances outside. Stretches. Touchdown, Justin Fields.
You know, another reason I was so disappointed throughout this year was that it felt like, as fans, we lost another season of potentially competitive football. We only get so many seasons to watch. After all, we're all human here. There are 60-year-old Browns fans that have never seen a Browns championship. There are 67-year-old Lions fans that have never been alive for a championship. There are 76-year-old Cardinals fans that have never been alive for a championship. I have never been alive for a Bears championship. And I don't want to be listening to a Bears show in the year 2055, listening to a conversation about a 70-year Super Bowl drought. But I guess I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but let's just hope they beat Green Bay on Sunday and we'll take it from there.
Basically, this game right here almost.
This holds a lot of cards. As Love on 3rd and 1 wants to go up top. Looks to the end zone. The pass is on the money for the touchdown. Dontavian Wicks. Here's Fields. They crash in on him again, just like they did on 2 other drives in this game. 3rd and 3. The pass to Wicks. And he finds the goal line for the touchdown. But it's the same old story now for a number of years as the Packers beat the Bears for a 10th consecutive time.
Oh, wow. Aldo, that was incredible, and I can't believe that you spent that much time putting all that together, but that was amazing. And my first takeaway is, man, I aged through this season. Like I look back at week 1, I'm like, wow, I was clean shaven, I was bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and now I got this patchy facial hair. I just want to go to bed. What an incredible recap of the season. Well done, bravo. Everyone should watch that as a recap of the Bears season, including the people in charge of the Bears, because they need to see just how people were reacting in real time whenever the Bears were losing football games. So well done on your part, sir.
Thank you very much. And look at this. This is where the barflies are so invaluable to us in so many ways. Joe is reporting that the Bears have requested an interview with offensive coordinator Shane Waldron per Tom Pelissero. He is, of course, the offensive coordinator from the Seattle Seahawks. So that's a perfect segue to talking about offensive coordinator candidates. What do you think?
Yeah, that's an interesting name, and I'm sure as the days progress, we're going to have more names out there. I was talking about the offensive coordinator situation and how I don't want someone that's going to, jump ship in a year and then, stifle the progression of whatever quarterback is here, whether it's Justin Fields or a rookie quarterback, because you see that with is it Slowick in Houston with CJ Stroud.
Yep.
Whether it's this year or next year, he's going to be a hot name to leave. And then we saw what happens when these good quarterbacks lose their offensive coordinator. We saw it with Josh Allen this year, or we saw it with Josh Allen after Dayball left, and some of the struggles that are there. So, who are some names that jump out to you? I'm trying to think of guys who would not be vying for a head coaching job, and I was going over in my mind today, and it's like, and here the funny thing in my mind is I always confuse the name Greg Roman with Roman Gabriel, which are two very different people. So I don't think Roman Gabriel is going to be the offensive coordinator for the Chicago Bears, but I don't think Greg Roman would be looking for a head coaching job. Jim Caldwell would be another one who's been there, done that. Frank Wright has been there, done that 2 straight years. I'm sure that he would like not to have the heat of the head coaching job right now and just run an offense. Eric Bieniemy might be another one where it's basically like, hey, you're the head coach of the offense, and if we decide to fire Matt Eberflus, maybe we could make you the head coach and just make you the head coach in waiting kind of thing. So, Danny, what are some of the names that jump out to you as far as a potential offensive coordinator?
Yeah. So Arthur Smith is a guy I would like to see, and basically, again, the emphasis here is I want someone who has play calling experience that's done it recently. And Arthur Smith, obviously a 15-season NFL coach assistant, started off on a defensive side and then went over to be offensive tight ends coach and a quality control coach at Tennessee. Was the offensive coordinator with the Titans at 2019 to 2020. Actually, Ryan Tannehill made the Pro Bowl with Smith as his offensive coordinator in 2019. So then obviously he went to Atlanta. And I think with Smith, what he brings is he brings a system that's got a multiple, takes things from the West Coast, from the Eric Coryell stuff, and from some of the wide zone scheme from the Shanahan stuff, and he mixes all in. But he bases it on what he has around in terms of his offense. Like Atlanta, they got some nice, talented skill position players. Offensive line was solid, but the quarterback was what killed them. And everyone, talked about, if Justin Fields, that type of quarterback was with, Arthur Smith in Atlanta, I think that would be a nice, combination. I think so. Now why not bring him here? We got a young developing offensive line. We got DJ Moore outside. We got Cole Kmet. Hopefully, get another offensive weapon on the outside, and it builds a game. The offensive line, it's a physical offense that's based off of the run game, right? It's a lot of 22-man personnel, 13-man personnel, but everything's built off of the play action and built off of that physical dominating run offense. And I think this is a guy that can come in here with add some more weapons, and with a kid like Justin Fields, and I'm thinking about Fields and putting him in a position to succeed would be a nice a piece to go ahead and build the offense around Justin and some of the skill position players on the outside. So again, he's a guy that just got to let go. I'm not sure if he's looking to get back into being an assistant right away, or if he's trying to maybe put his name into being a head coach. Again, we'll see. It didn't end too nicely there or too kindly there in Atlanta. So I think this is a guy, again, depending on what they do, is a guy they could probably bring in here as a guy who's done it before, a play caller, that guy that can build it off of a physical run game. The other guy I have is a young guy, is an up and coming guy. He's been in the league for 12 seasons as an assistant coach. And if you want to keep the same type of scheme, which is that Shanahan, McVay, wide zone, inside zone scheme, Clint Kubiak is a kid that's right now is the passing game coordinator with Kyle Shanahan and the San Francisco 49ers, right? So if you want the Shanahan offense, go get it from a guy that his dad ran the offense, and Gary Kubiak. And so Clint Kubiak has been an offensive assistant, like I said, with Minnesota, with Denver. He was the offensive coordinator with the Vikings in 2021, and Kirk Cousins made the Pro Bowl under him. He threw for over 4,000 yards, 33 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. So again, if you want to keep that wide zone scheme, because you've already kind of drafted for that system, Clint Kubiak at 36 years old is a guy you could bring in. That's a guy that intrigues me as a young assistant that can come in here and be a play caller. Again, if you want to keep Justin because he's familiar with the scheme, or if you want to go ahead and bring another quarterback, and as we've seen, this is the same system that they're running over there in Houston now with CJ Stroud. So it's a quarterback friendly system. If you go ahead and bring someone that they can call plays and that can be actually creative with that system. So the third guy that I think eventually, in my opinion, is going to get the job, and it's all about relationships here in the NFL, right? We talked about Eberflus being possibly on a make it or break it, final year here. So he's going to have to rely on some friends. And the guy that just got released right now is a good friend of his, is Frank Reich, right? Frank Reich, 62 years old. He's a more older coach. Obviously, he's been around. He's been offense coordinator with the Chargers, offense coordinator with Eagles, head coach with the Colts, and obviously this past year with the Panthers. So the other thing with Frank Reich is he just went through this whole process. If you're going to draft a quarterback, he went through the process just last year in terms of going through these pro days and sitting down with these quarterbacks and going through. Now, he was forced. Bryce Young was forced on him by the owner. That's not his first guy. Multiple people have told me that wasn't his first choice, but it was forced by the owner. If the owner wants him, what you're going to do? And unfortunately, it just then ended up being ushered out because Bryce Young wasn't competitive. He had nobody on the outside in terms of weapons. Offensive line was shambles. Obviously, we've talked about Bryce Young and his limitation in terms of size. But again, Frank Reich, he's someone that obviously Eberflus was his defensive coordinator with Indy, so they have that relationship there. The thing about Reich is his run game is predominantly zone-based, right, scheme. But he does a nice job in terms of adapting, and he uses gap scheme. You'll see some power, some trap. You see some pin and pull in there as well. Does a nice job of using motion. A lot of times use that motion player as a lead blocker. Jonathan Taylor has some great years running the football with Frank Reich as his play caller. He's known as a guy that can innovate some nice explosive run plays here, in terms of as a play caller. Passing game, again, his game is just based mostly on the West Coast system, but he's got some principles that I like, right? He likes to make things easy and simple for his quarterbacks. Basically, he likes to put what he calls a triangle concept on one side of the football field, and he floods the DBs with 3 receivers running similar routes. So a lot of those routes are like drag routes, crossers, real quick hitters. That way, that gives the quarterback one side of the field to read. Doesn't have to sit there in a pocket, hold the ball, go sideline to sideline. He gives them easy concepts to go ahead and just fire all those 3 receivers. Bam, 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 the triangle. Hit one of these guys. If you're not, you do have a guy in the flat as your outlet. A lot of times you also have a running back running out from the backfield for a real route. So it makes the offense a little simpler, a little more less complicated, if you will, for the quarterback. Plus, he's done it for years. And he's a guy that we talked about earlier. Probably, he said earlier that this Carolina job might have been his last job in the NFL. So we got to see if he's really get back into it here and be a play caller. But because of the relationship with Matt Eberflus, I think maybe he might come in here and might take over the system. And again, if you do draft a quarterback, he just went through this process in terms of going out and finding a quarterback, going through the whole scouting combine and everything like that. So those are the 3 guys I kind of plucked out there. Obviously, we saw Shane Waldron here today. That the Bears requested, Waldron to interview. He was with the Seattle Seahawks, obviously with Pete Carroll now moving on. He's available. So Waldron also, he came from the Rams. We talk about another guy from the McVay tree, right? Again, we're talking about wide zone, inside zone. I think he did a nice job with Geno Smith this past year, getting him some nice, easy concepts in terms of the passing game and being able to kind of build his confidence up. And we saw what Geno Smith did. So I think that's a curious name as well. He's in the 40. I think he's 44 years old. Been around the league for some time. So again, it looks like they're going to be staying in that same kind of concept, right? Using that wide zone and that zone scheme because they've kind of drafted for that concept, right? So I think Clint Kubiak will make sense. Shane Waldron makes sense, and obviously I think if they push comes to shove, he goes to his buddy Frank Reich if Reich doesn't want to take a job.
Yeah, Waldron's an interesting name. He has an array of experience. Like you said, 44 years old, but has a lot on his resume. He was the offensive quality control coach and the tight ends coach for New England in 08 and 09, where they won a Super Bowl. So he's been under Belichick as a coach. And like you said, he was under Sean McVay as he was the tight ends coach there, then the passing game coordinator, then the quarterbacks coach and the passing game coordinator before he ultimately got the offensive coordinator job with Seattle. So a nice array of experience where it's not like the Matt Nagy where he just kind of followed Andy Reid wherever he went. He was under that same system the entire time. He was with New England. Then he went he was in a couple of different independent leagues. He was with UMass as the offensive line coach at one point. Was with Washington as the offensive quality control coach in 2016. The guy's been all over the place. So that's you're kind of dipping into a bunch of experience there. Just some background there on Shane Waldron, who was the Bears have requested an interview with him, which would be a very interesting candidate there. Aldo, what route do you think that they might go, or who would you like to see? Is it one of these? Is it an older, experienced offensive coordinator, or is it an up and comer?
I would be totally open to interviewing both candidates. And anytime I'm asked a question like this, I like to kind of focus on the questions that I would ask this potential offensive coordinator. So I would ask, what do you think about Justin Fields? What are his strengths? What are his weaknesses? Take a look at this game. How would you have changed the play calling from what we had from Luke Getsy? I wouldn't even mention his name, but what we had, and what would you do in order to preserve this lead? We're up by 3 touchdowns. We're up against whatever. And I would also then say, okay, now let's talk about potential quarterback prospects. If we decided to move on from Justin, who have you looked at? What are your thoughts about that person? How would you utilize that person? So I would really dig in to get as much information about that person and what he thinks about Justin Fields, what he thinks about Caleb Williams, what he thinks about any of the other top prospects. Ryan Poe's accidentally said 4 prospects today. And Courtney Cronin, I believe
Great
it was.
catch by Courtney Cronin, by the way. Great catch by Courtney.
Indeed. Excellent catch. And she followed up and asked him, you said 4? And he goes, well, if I said that, I was mistaken. Yeah, you said that, dude.
4, yeah, he said 4.
So I would want to talk about those 4 quarterbacks in depth. And then I would, give any candidate, whether he's a veteran and especially if he's a newbie, I would give them a packet of information, not lengthy, especially if they're still coaching during the season. You make some exceptions for certain people, but a packet of what if scenarios. What if this were to happen? What would you do? What if on 3rd and 15, this is happening against perhaps a team that they are familiar with so that they can speak intelligently about it? But the big point here that I want to make here is that it has to be, as Kevin Warren talked about, a very methodical, very thoughtful approach to getting as much information from this candidate as possible so that you can make the best informed decision. That did not happen last time. And that's a big mark against Ryan Poles. As Danny said earlier, when you bring in, 2 coordinators and a head coach who have never had experience at that, you have made a huge mistake as a general manager. So hopefully he's learned from that.
Well, you bring up Ryan Poles, and that's what the next question I want to ask, and I'll start with Danny. So far, I know that you've had some questions about Ryan Poles and some of the moves that he's made, but coming out of year 2, what grade do you give Ryan Poles, given what the roster he's built, the coaches he's hired, the decisions he's made, the trades he's made, the draft picks he's made, all encompassing? Go ahead and give Ryan Poles a grade after 2 seasons.
Yeah, I mean, I still like to give him a couple more, at least one more season for his first draft class, but to kind of fully develop. I mean, I think we think Velus Jones is could be a bust there, a 3rd round pick, so that's gonna be a large hit there. But I mean, you got 2 starters in terms of Keller Gordon and Jaquan Brisker in his first draft. Braxton Jones talked about already, a 5th round pick, probably a starting left tackle. So he's got some hits there in his first class. And obviously, this last year we got Darnell Wright, and the trade down for DJ Moore. I think that's and obviously I think the best move was getting Montez Sweat, and that's the one thing that I've kind of dinged Ryan Poles on was when he did the teardown, he started attacking not the offensive and defensive lines, and that's where I wanted him to attack. So now he's come back and he's done that with the Montez Sweat trade. He's done that this year with the 2 kids inside. We saw Dexter get better there in terms of the young guy developing. I think Pickens, I'm high on Pickens as well. We talked about Stevenson got better in the second half of the season. Terrell Smith came in there and showed well. So for me, I think right now I have to give him a C+. I think if I'm being honest, I'm not overly overconfident in terms of he's going to do a great job moving forward. We'll see. But this is a pivotal offseason for the Bears and the organization. If Ryan Poles at all blunders this offseason, it could set the franchise back for years.
Mm-hmm. Aldo, what grade do you give him so far?
Yeah, I'm actually surprised that Danny gave a C+. I think that's a generous grade. I was actually thinking C-, but based on what I just heard from Danny, I might push it up to a C. And the reason why is, as part of the rebuild, I would have sat down with Ryan Poles and asked him, okay, so what do you anticipate in terms of wins and losses in year 1 and year 2 and year 3 of this 3-year rebuild? Assuming that it's a 3-year rebuild, it can't be anything more than a 3-year rebuild, not in the NFL. So I'm going by the predictions that you guys had at the beginning of the season. That's first segment of the video when you guys basically said 8 or 9 wins. And that's what I would have had for year 2 of Ryan Poles' rebuild. They failed short of that, which is why I'm thinking C-. There were these awful mistakes with the Claypool trade and the coordinator issue that we talked about and the inexperience and so forth. So that's why I think they have done some good things in scouting players, but the jury is still out, but it's looking somewhat favorable. Those 2 defensive backs that they got in year 1 of Poles' draft, are turning out well. Those 2 interior linemen they got in the second and third round of the most recent draft, one of them looks like he's going to be a really good 3-tech, Gervon Dexter. The other guy, the jury's still out on. He has not had any sustained success. But there's no doubt about it that Darnell Wright at the right tackle position looks like a lock there for the next 10 years. So there's been some good things. There's been some bad things. Just like the head coach and the coordinators that Ryan Poles was a part of hiring, he is also a first-time guy. So you gotta factor that in too. So there it is.
Yeah, I can't believe I'm going to be the highest, but with a C+. But I'm gonna, just because I like what he did with the cap situation, because I hated how Ryan Pace had to handle it, where it was chasing bad money with bad money. It's like, I screwed up a draft pick, so I gotta get Allen Robinson, or I screwed up the quarterback, I gotta go get Nick Foles and Andy Dalton. I screwed up I let Leonard Floyd go. We didn't bring up his option, so we gotta go get Robert Quinn. It was always chasing free agents with bad draft picks, and what you put yourself in salary cap hell doing that. And so Ryan Poles was in charge of clearing that out. He's made some good draft picks. They're going to be able to sign some of these young players whenever, like that was the thing. Like the Bears they didn't retain anyone that they drafted. Like that was the main thing that we saw a few years ago. There weren't any first rounders left on the team because they're all gone. So I think that I wanted to give a cop out and say incomplete, but I gave a C+ just because, like Danny said, next season really is make or break, because there are franchise altering decisions that you're making now. You already made one by bringing Eberflus back, and now you're gonna have to do another one with who's running the offense and what are you doing at the quarterback position. These are career defining moves he has to make. They are franchise-defining moves that he's going to make for the next 4 or 5 years that are going to impact this team. So we will see, especially and if they, even if they choose to move off of Justin Fields. Danny, you and I had this conversation last week. Are they sold on Caleb Williams, or could they trade back and take Marvin Harrison at 3 and then draft Penix at 9? Or so there's a lot of different things that could be happening here.
He dropped some crumbs today in a press conference, Ryan Poles, for me. And if you've noticed, I don't know if it was Courtney, who does a great job covering the Bears for ESPN 1000 with that question, but they said, what's the thing you're going to look for in terms of your quarterback? And he's like, and he made a point. I think he's talking specifically about Caleb Williams. He said, it's not about the tape, the talent on the tape, because we can turn it on, we can see the talent. It's off the field. Is this guy a leader? What makes him tick? And I think that was directly going at Caleb Williams, because I've been saying since the season started that I was told that Caleb Williams on the field, talent-wise, can make all the throws, quick release. He's got the ability to be a dual threat. He's got a lot of talent, right? But the thing is, off the field, there's a lot of off the field questions scouts had going into this season. Okay, and then I think some of those questions were not answered. I think some of those questions were there were more questions added to them because of some of the way he acted with the media. After some adversity with losses at USC, and then one of the team for me, guys. I don't know if you guys saw the bowl game with USC where, after the game, they asked Lincoln Riley, the head coach for USC, in terms of, how was, in terms of the game. He said, this is the most fun I've had all season coaching this team. What's the difference there? Caleb Williams wasn't his quarterback. So that is a big red flag for me. And if you take Justin Fields, who the team loves, who pretty much everyone has spoken up for, and you replace him with a Caleb Williams, and he comes in with the attitude, or he comes in with that body language problem and all that other stuff, you're going to lose this team quicker than anything else. And I think then both Poles and Eberflus are out the door. So that's a thing I think he touched on there is. And the other question was, they asked him, when does he expect to trade the pick, if he trades the pick, because last year they traded it right after the combine. And he goes, I expect to hold on to this until April, meaning that he's going to go through the whole process of meeting these guys, doing, having them come into the building and all that stuff, whether it's Caleb or Drake May. I think that's what they're going to be doing here. I think they're going to hold on to this, and they're going to do the due diligence. But one positive for me, at least, is that he didn't give up on Justin Fields. I think he's a guy that didn't just say, obviously, there's trade value there for Justin if he decides to move on. But I think, and I do believe Poles, when he says this, that he's going to go through the process, and he did see Justin improve. And there was things where he said he wanted him to improve. He mentioned that the 2-minute stuff at the end of the games. But I think he knows what Justin brings to this locker room and what he brings in terms of his intangibles. There are things he's got to get better at, but I think he's going to give Justin a fair shot.
Another interesting thing I picked up from that press conference was, I think the question, and I'm paraphrasing, is like, if you bring in a rookie quarterback, does that change your expectations next year? As opposed, like, are you rebuilding? Or the essence of the question was, do your expectations for a successful year change if you bring in a new quarterback? And basically they said no. And I found that interesting. But then you look at some of the teams this year who made it work with backup and young quarterbacks. C.J. Stroud's they won the division this year with a rookie quarterback. Joe Flacco is taking the Browns to the playoffs. The Browns were in playoff, or the Bengals were in playoff contention with Jake Browning until the last couple of weeks. The Vikings were in playoff contention with whoever the hell they were playing at quarterback for the last couple of weeks. So I can see why it's like we're building the team, and when we expect the quarterback that is going to be able to take us to the playoffs. So I found that to be interesting. And another point, Danny, I think that you tweeted it, or maybe you were responding to Greg Gabriel, was if you bring in Caleb Williams, a hard-nosed offensive coordinator like Eric Bieniemy might be in order to coach him hard to turn him into something.
Yeah, Caleb is a player that needs to be held accountable, right? And if you're going to bring in Caleb Williams, you need to have a coach, a play caller. In this case, it's going to be offensive coordinator or a quarterback coach that's going to hold him accountable to, because he's got the same stuff that everyone complains about Justin in terms of holding the ball, playing that hero ball, not getting rid of the ball in time, or holding it loose and away from his body, some fumbles and all that stuff, because he can make things happen at the last minute. So he's a guy that's going to have to be coached hard. And the one thing about Eric Bieniemy, and I'm not a big fan of his philosophy, especially after he against the Bears, he had Howell throw 50 consecutive passes. I'm like a guy coordinator who concentrates on the run game, but in terms of how he coaches, I think he's a guy that will hold Caleb responsible, will hold any player he coaches responsible and hold him accountable. I don't think Matt Eberflus is someone that will hold a kid like Caleb Williams accountable. I'm sorry. You and I have talked about it before, John, in terms of you need an adult in the room. And there's a lot of times I just don't see Matt Eberflus being that guy, that can, sit down and player and say, this is what you're going to do. I mean, hell, he couldn't hold Luke Getsy accountable for any of the stuff he do. He couldn't go to Luke Getsy and say, hey, we're running the ball here. So I just think if you bring in a guy like Caleb Williams, you need to have a play caller that's going to hold him accountable.
I got to add this real quick. The problem that I have with Eric Bieniemy, and these are allegations made by players like LaShawn McCoy, is that he gets really belligerent and profane in his criticism directly towards players, calling them names, yelling at them at practice, and so forth. And the players don't particularly like that. That happened at Kansas City, and Andy Reid was there as a buffer. And it happened at Washington, where particularly during the preseason, players were just very upset at how hard he ran them and so forth. And there are no positive results to point to and say he rode them hard, but it turned out well because the Commanders are in the playoffs or blah blah blah. So my only problem with that is there are the makeup currently of this team, particularly the nucleus players. I don't think Justin Fields or Caleb Williams is going to respond to that type of coaching. Particularly, you're talking about Caleb Williams, who's crying into the shoulder of his mom after a loss. I think he's probably maybe the most sensitive quarterback coming to the NFL in quite some time.
Yeah. Just to clarify, Aldo, I wasn't saying I want Eric Bieniemy as I want someone that's going to hold the quarterback accountable. I use him as an example because I know he's the one that does that, right? So whether it's Shane Waldron or if it's Frank Reich or one of the other guys, Clint Kubiak, as long as you hold the quarterback accountable for his mistakes, because I don't think the head coach will.
Yeah.
As you can find, hopefully you can find somewhere in the middle there. We always unfortunately can't find that happy medium, because Eberflus, like I've said numerous times, seems like a nice guy, seems like a fine human being. I don't know how old Matt Eberflus is, but it looks like eventually he's going to be like that guy in his living room wearing a cardigan and on the recliner who offers you a Werther's original and then wants to tell you an interesting story about an old wooden bridge. Like, he just seems like a nice, boring old guy. But I don't know. Like Danny said, if he's going to, he doesn't have the flair to really hold people accountable. Look at the staff. There's a lot of turnover with the staff just after this year. But let's turn over to a different subject, and that would be Kevin Warren's press conference today, talking about the new stadium, what he's trying to get accomplished, talking about how obviously having over 300 acres makes things more conducive to building a new stadium, but didn't really give any real concrete details on where that's going. Aldo, I'll start with you just because you're our native Arlington Heights guy right now. What do you see happening, or how do you I guess assess this stadium issue that's going on with Chicago?
Well, first of all, let me just say this about Kevin Warren. I mean, a very polished presentation.
Yeah, absolutely.
I one of the things though that bugged me is that there was a lot of corporate speak there, and one of the reasons I did not last longer than 15 years at my last corporate job was because I started kind of talking like I talk, as opposed to how a CEO or a vice president or a senior director. I got to the director level on my job, and then after that, they were like, "All right, it's time to get rid of this guy because he's sharing too much of his own thoughts." So I thought Kevin was a little bit bordering on being too corporate for my taste, but nonetheless, everything he said makes total sense. And the Bears clearly made a huge mistake when they announced publicly that they were going to be negotiating solely with Arlington Heights. And that was before Warren was hired, and he immediately corrected that mistake and started negotiations with Chicago and talked about how beautiful it is to have a football stadium in downtown Chicago and that it's part of the heritage and blah, blah, blah. And that all makes total sense. He's doing it the right way. He is pitting, even though he denied that he is pitting Arlington Heights versus Chicago so that they can get the best possible deal, because Arlington Heights right now wants to screw them when it comes to taxes. By the way, I'm getting screwed in taxes too in my home here, but that's another story. So I do like the methodical approach. And then one other thing that I don't think was mentioned at the press conference today, a few days ago, he had a press conference because he and his wife were donating $1 million to a charity to help kids in need, families in need. And he talked about afterwards that he thought an announcement would be imminent in maybe a month or 2 months from now. So it's good that he is at least in a place where he can make some type of announcement very soon about which direction they're headed. Because, hey, just like you said in the video, John Buffone, there are some people who are 65, 70 years old who haven't seen championships. I'd like to be alive when we see this new stadium.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, well, I mean, Aldo, would you pay a little higher in taxes if the Bears Stadium was 2 miles from your house?
I would not be happy about it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, okay. That was a legit question because
Sure.
I'm sure that's what they're selling to a lot of the tax base is like, listen, this is going to bring in a lot of business to the local economy. You're going to be able to just walk over to the stadium if you really wanted to. I'd actually value your opinion on that.
Yeah, well, the thing is, they have to convince me as to what the benefits are. I don't mind paying high taxes if I know it's going for a good cause. For the school system, our taxes help to pay for school expenses in a nearby suburb. So, I wrestle with that a little bit. Why don't they pay their own and so forth? But I am a good citizen, and so I'll let that slide. Now the Bears would have to tell me this is where the tax money is going to before I could offer a really knowledgeable response.
Would that increase your property value there, Aldo, if they moved in?
That's the other thing. From the research that I have done, when Las Vegas and the Rams built their new stadium, it helped increase property values. Now, I have read a couple of differing points of view on that, but the research that I have done tells me that it would increase my property value, which would be great.
And you could sell a parking spot in your driveway for about $50 a day every game day. Make a little side money there.
Every time we have bear flies here.
You can help us sign T. Higgins.
There you go. I like that idea.
Unless I'm in town and then I have a reserved parking spot there in Arlington Heights. So
There you go.
that's a little different. But Danny, what do you think of the whole stadium situation? Where would you like to see it? Pros and cons, if there are any. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's Aldo just laid out real nicely there. I think he is using the city as leverage because the Bears obviously Ted Phillips was running this thing and he was couldn't get out of his own way. So that's the one thing about today's press conference is seeing a professional CEO of an organization come out there instead of Ted sweating all over the place. But I think what he's doing now, he's using leverage the city versus Arlington Heights. I think eventually if they bought that land, I think they're going to eventually strike a deal with Arlington Heights. This is just negotiation back and forth, and I think eventually we will all be tailgating in Aldo's backyard and walking over to the Bears game as they built that stadium. I don't know where was it 2026 is when the lease they can get out of their lease at Soldier Field, I believe it is. Is that what it is? 2026 or is it later?
I think it's a little later than that.
Yeah. So it might be a couple of years here and there, but I think eventually when it's all said and done, it'll be out in Arlington Heights.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just think that there was probably some roadblocks there that they weren't foreseeing. They thought this was going to be easy peasy. Everyone's on board. We'll give you all the money. Taxes, they're going to be fine. They get who's building the roads. What's going on with this? Oh, who cares? We're just going to announce we bought this, and everything else will fall into place. Well, it's not exactly falling into place, but I think Kevin Warren is dedicated to having a world-class stadium that I think that he would eventually want Chicago to host a Super Bowl. I think that that's one of those things. And then you're going to obviously. For that, you're going to have an enclosed stadium. You're going to have a dome stadium. They, from what I understand, the idea of having a retractable roof was not brought up. It was just going to be a dome. So we'll see where they're going to go with that. They probably want to host a Final Four. They probably can have big political conventions there in Chicago or in Arlington Heights. So they and like I've said before, you maximize your profit for all 12 months rather than just whenever it's nice and sunny in Chicago, which is about 3 months out of the year. So you can have concerts there, you can have conventions there, and you can do that in December, January, and February. Where in Soldier Field, you're probably not doing that. So we'll see where this goes. But fellas, the last thing I want to talk about before we wrap this up is some of the position groups that need to be targeted as in the offseason. I'm not just talking about the draft, I'm talking about free agency as well. I haven't really dug into the free agent list yet. Usually I'm all over that, but I haven't really been looking at that yet for some reason. But as far as draft and free agents, Danny, what positions do you see the Bears targeting in the offseason?
Well, on offense, I see an interior offensive lineman, center or another guard, depending on what you do with Nate Davis. He had an up and down season. I know it's his first year of his contract. I'm not sure what the guarantee money is there, but if you can upgrade there, I think you would do that as well. They're going to be in a spot here in the draft, probably with that 9th pick, depending what they do with that first one, they trade down now, to have an option of getting maybe the top 2 tackles in the draft, left tackles, right? So do you do that? Do you we talked about Braxton Jones in terms of his improvement. Do you kick him inside the guard, switch Tevin Jenkins over to right guard, and go with the rookie left tackle, and now you have your bookend tackle. So that's the thing right there is interior offensive lineman is my first thing. You're gonna need receivers. You're gonna need probably 2 receivers if I had to guess right, because I think Darnell Mooney's not gonna come back. I think St. Brown's not gonna come back, and you have Tyler Scott, DJ Moore. And obviously Velus Jones, I don't know what he's going to do here, going forward, but I think you need at least 2 receivers. And this is a good draft for receivers, right? Obviously Marvin Harris Jr. is the top of the heap there, but there's going to be tons of guys in that first round. You're going to find some guys in the second, third round as well that can come in and help you. So I think receiver and interior offensive lineman on offense is going to be the key there. Defensively, I still want an interior defensive tackle. I still want a dude or an ass kicker and an inside defensive tackle that can provide consistent pressure. I know Dexter and Pickens are young guys. That Dexter shows some promise, and I think Pickens will eventually show promise as well. But I still want another interior defensive guy. But first and foremost, I want a speed edge rusher opposite of Montez Sweat. That's the guy I want to go get there, and I think you can get that in the draft as well. You have to go out there and spend big money in free agency too. So I think a speed guy, doesn't have to be a guy that's going to be necessarily a 4-down guy or a run stuffing guy. I think he's a guy you can just bring in on nickel packages or any passing down and let him kind of rush the passer opposite of Montez Sweat. But he's got to be a quick twitch, first step guy. That's on defense. And then in terms of, just kind of overall, I obviously the quarterback position, we'll see what happens there. But I think once you add some couple more pieces to that defense and kind of fortify this defense, especially since you're bringing back the coordinator or you're bringing back the head coach, who's the quasi coordinator, I think that unity, that ability, and Jalen Johnson without question, and as a guy you should probably resign as well as Jalen Johnson. So I think that that group playing together again, building and adding a couple more weapons there, on the outside and speed rusher, I think that's going to help fortify them there.
Aldo, what do you think were the main positions they target in the offseason are?
Yeah, I think if you've made up your mind that you're going to keep Justin Fields, then you should really look at things through the prism of how can I make his job easier. So one of the things is, as Danny said, a premier speed rusher who can help get short fields for the offense will be huge. That is really the equivalent of getting a 1,500-yard running back. So I would start there, and I would then also try to get him another offensive weapon. There are in the first round going to be 3 or 4 great wide receivers who should pan out. We won't know for sure, of course, but these guys are good gambles. So I would target a pass rusher and a wide receiver, and then in free agency, I'm targeting a veteran center. Even Connor McGovern, the guy who is hurt and probably won't be ready for the start of the season, I would want somebody like him who is a veteran and can work with Justin Fields and become best buddies and so forth. Now, if you're going to draft a quarterback, then I think you have to really, really work hard at providing that quarterback with the safest environment from a pocket standpoint, whether it's the mobile quarterback, Caleb Williams, or the traditional pocket passer, Drake May. You want to really, really focus your energies on providing an offensive lineman. And so maybe that means knocking Braxton Jones inside as a backup to either one of the 2 guards, or maybe he's fighting for a starting spot, and getting a left tackle who you can count on is going to protect this quarterback's blind side. That's a huge part of it. So a lot depends on which quarterback you're going to move in, and that should determine how you're going to focus. You've got to really, really focus in on getting the best assets for your quarterback, and sometimes that could be on the defensive side.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. I want to see a stability at the center position. Who the leader on the line is calling out the Danny cut the coverage, or calling out the what's the word I'm looking for? whenever the protection scheme. Thank you. Someone who is going to be a captain on that line, also an edge rusher. I want to bring in a young. I wouldn't mind drafting one to go opposite Montez Sweat, who can learn from Montez Sweat, learn from some of the veterans on the defense. The secondary seems to be pretty shored up. Sounds like Jalen Johnson isn't going anywhere from what we heard from the press conference today. Linebackers are solid. They just got to attack the line. A couple more pieces there, and then an edge rusher, and then center on offense. That's where I'm looking at.
One more spot I forgot to mention is a flex tight end to replace Robert Tonyan, opposite of Cole Kmet. Yeah. That's another piece. If you can get a guy, whether it's veteran free agency or in the draft, another valuable option where they can give the quarterback, whether it's Justin or whoever else back there, another safety valve to be able to get rid of the ball quickly and get out. Like guys like Donald Parham, I think he's a free agent from the Chargers. We saw a video highlighted him scoring there. But guys like that, guys that can be flexed out in the slot position, because Cole's more of a inline blocking tight end. But I think someone that can complement him would be nice. Now I think Brock Bowers is the kid from Georgia, has been highly rated in terms of going to top 10. I don't see a top 10 in him, but so if he drops down, the Bears trade down, that could be an option later on in the draft as well in the first round. But someone like that, someone that can flex out and be a nice complement to Cole Kmet will give you another player there at that tight end position.
One of the interesting things about Cole Kmet, though, is that he has proven that he can be an inline tight end and also be used flexed out as a pass receiver. He's gotten better and better and better. So the way I would approach this tight end is see who's available and get the absolute best, whether he's a pass catching tight end and then use Cole Moore for that inline blocking, or whether it's a blocking tight end. Hey, I wouldn't mind seeing Mercedes Lewis back. I think he's a perfect third level tight end. But I would make my decision on the tight end based on who is the best, regardless of what position, because you got the flexibility in Cole Kmet. He can play either position or both.
Remember, Danny, I said maybe the new offensive coordinator, I said earlier this year, maybe the new offensive coordinator comes in and said, I'm not taking the job unless Bob Tunyon's here. they're gonna re-sign Bob Tunyon. Like, no Tunyon, no job. Listen, we're gonna make this offense run through Bob Tunyon. So
he's also going to the Jets. See, he's a friend of Aaron Rodgers, so he'll be
a Jet too. Yeah. Him and Getsy are both going. They're going to be Jets next year. Gentlemen, before we wrap this up, let's go around the horn. Aldo, it's the off season, but it's not really the off season for the Barroom. Tell us what's going on, what people can expect, and why they should hit like and subscribe.
Right. Well, we're going to continue with Gabriel Talks Football. In fact, he and I are scheduled to do a show on Friday. Mike North has got his season-ending show tomorrow at 10 a.m. Central. It'd be interesting to hear Mike's rants about what the Bears have done with over today. Beyond that, we're going to have lots of draft coverage led by my man here, Danny Shimon. So I think that the best way for people to stay on top of the great Bears coverage that we're going to deliver is to subscribe to the YouTube channel here, Barroom Network, and subscribe to our audio podcast. And trust me, we're going to be working hard at providing you with the best absolute content so that when the draft rolls along, you're going to be well informed and confident in who you want to draft for the Chicago Bears.
Speaking of the draft, Danny, the regular season is over, and so is the college football season. Everyone else's off season is actually your time of glory. Tell us what you're going to be working on.
Yeah, I'm ramping up. I think maybe next week, Aldo. I think we're going to kick off Draft on Tap. Obviously, the Senior Bowl is coming up soon. I got my credentials here for the Senior Bowl approved recently this week, so that's all good. And then I don't know if this has been made official or not, but Aldo will be joining me this year on Draft on Tap, and so him and I have already been texting back and forth about prospects that he likes and that I've seen play and all that stuff. So yeah, it's going to be draft intensive here with 2 top 10 picks in the first round. It's going to be a huge offseason, huge draft for the Bears moving forward. Whether they keep Justin, they move on, we'll see what happens there. But we'll see what happens in terms of the coaching staff, and then obviously from there we'll go on. The good thing is we know what Eberflus and the defensive staff likes in terms of defensive guys up front, linebackers, corners, so on and so forth, if they go that route. But offensively, we got to see who the new coordinator is, and in terms of what they like to do, what kind of system they run, scheme, whether it is a wide zone, is it going to be more power based, and that kind of dictates in terms of the offensive lineman you bring in here.
All right, well, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the Barroom Network and set those live alerts, because we're going to be bursting with special episodes about roster moves, free agency, the draft, maybe some different changes going on that could drop at any time depending on what's going on. But that will do it for us tonight. We appreciate you tuning in. This has been...
Hey, John, hold on a second. I think it would be really, really cool if you had one last B55 rant for us. I won't turn on the clock, so you don't have to worry about the 55 seconds, but the absolute best way. Wouldn't you agree, Danny?
Yeah, I want to see a vein right there pop out your neck there. Let's give us one more big vein pop up rant there.
Yeah, just give us one more. No clock. The stage is yours, and then we'll finish the show that way. All right?
All right, we're really going to get into this. So, all right, listen, I've been a Bears fan my entire life, much like most of you have been Bears fans for the rest of your life, for all of your life. People come up to me and they ask, why are you still doing this? Why are you still watching the Bears? And it's a simple question. It's an easy answer for me to say. You know what? Because we are Bears fans unconditionally. I've never been alive for a Bears championship. I never got to see Walter Payton play. I never got to do the Super Bowl shuffle. I basically have never seen anything. The only memories I have of Bears success are memories that I never actually experienced. So why do I do it? It's because of the community that we've built here. It's because of the people around us. And Bears fans, eventually, we will get it right. We have to hold on to the hope that there is hope. We have to hold on to the hope that bad times will not always be bad times, that there will be good times. There will eventually be a time where we can look at highlights that are not 40 years old. There will eventually be a time where we can buy a championship t-shirt somewhere other than a vintage clothing shop. And so when that happens, all of those bad memories will go away. The 2006 rainy Super Bowl loss to the Colts, away. The 2010 NFC Championship game loss to the Green Bay Packers, it'll go away. The infamous double doink game will go away. So we all have to just keep hoping and keep loving this team unconditionally because we don't have any other choice. It's in our blood. We bleed blue and orange. So we will hibernate, we will wait, and we will continue to hope. We'll see you next season.